Welcome back to Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm dear darling, as you see what's going on a lovely island of Fawnhollow today, where you may be glad to know that I've transferred my data from my SD card to my Switch itself, the Animal Crossing data that is, so theoretically, no more crashes, provided that is actually the root cause of it. Otherwise I had to do a clean installation, which I'm not really planning to do, but again, I do have my cloud data backed up, so it's not really that big a deal. Drink some water, stay hydrated everyone, folks and all. I need to cough right now, but good morning everyone. Right now in Fawnhollow it's 11:45 AM on Saturday, October 14th, 2023. For fishing tourney is something which we will promptly ignore. How's everyone's weekends going? You know, I've just changed my duvet and bed sheets. You know, it's about time. You got to do that. I'm not actually sure how often you're necessarily meant to do that. What is once a month? Like a reasonable number? I don't even know how often I do it, to be honest. I don't really sort of keep track. Just sort of do it when I'm like, yeah, it's probably better. No. This reminds me of a show I watched ages ago. It was about some children and teens who had asthma. I think it followed like 7 different families who had asthma, and it was basically something like trying to find a cure or something for asthma, as I understood it. Which I'm not sure. I don't actually know if asthma is something which can necessarily be cured. I think it's something which certainly you can improve, like your relationship with it. Relationship's not really the right word, but how it affects you like quite a lot through certain things. I'm not really an expert, but I do remember that documentary. And the one thing I do remember is that both the children and the parents got like a timetable bedsheet thing where they had to do something like do these things every single day to try and like help improve the asthma situation for their children. One of the things I remember was his family, like the kid was, you know, doing his stuff, and like one of the things I remember he had to do was like he had to air out his duvet or something like that every single day. I can't remember, so it was just like he sticks it like out of a window or something like that. And I remember he was just calling out his mother, being like, "Oh, you know, if you look at my mother's timetable," and it was basically one of those trackers where every single time you do something, you put. In my mind, I remember it being like a bed bug for some reason, like on the timetable tracker, being like, "Yes, I did it for today," and he was just calling out his mum, being like, "Oh, you know, like her one was like every single day, was it like change bed sheets or something, or change something?" And he was like, "My mum, she's not doing it." And then it cut to the mum's like interview thing, being like, "Oh yeah, I don't." You know, it's just like, it seems excessive doing this every single day or something. I don't really know what I thought about it at the time. And I don't really know either if it is excessive or it's not excessive. I don't really have much experience with asthma. I've had friends with asthma, but I don't mind. I personally don't have asthma, so what do I know, essentially? It's something I certainly remember a lot more from primary school, if anything. Like, because, okay, I'm not like an expert on asthma or anything like that, but from what I recall, isn't it something like to do, well, okay, obviously it's to do with lungs and breathings and difficulty breathings and asthma attacks where you get shortness of breath and that sort of thing. So it's very common for people who have asthma to have these like inhalers. I remember the thing I remember, because I had a friend who had asthma, probably still does, I don't actually know, and there was like a brown inhaler and there's a blue inhaler. A brown one is meant to just be like for constant protection, and blue one or something is what you're meant to use for if you're actually having an asthma attack or something. And I don't know really where I'm going with the story. It's what I really remember. And I just randomly thought about documentary. I think about documentary a lot when I'm changing my bed sheets, about mother whose son was calling her out, being like, she's not changing her bed sheets, you know, as often as the doctor recommends. But I do remember also them visiting, I don't even know what doctor specialises in asthma, like a pulmonary doctor maybe, who was like, they had to do this test where it's not a breathalyzer, it's like a breath strength thing where they just be like, how strongly can you exhale and that sort of thing. And the only thing I remember is like the last episode was like some super motivational episode where it's just like, oh, you know, the girl, she like does a breath thing. It's like, wow, that's such a big improvement from the first time. And it's like, look how much it helped their condition, or, you know, helped their asthma by doing these things every single day or whatever. Does it actually help? I genuinely don't know. I'm not a doctor, which is probably calls into question why I talk about so many medical things in the end. It's just sort of like, these are just random documentaries I remember watching when I was younger. I wonder if I could find the exact thing. Hold on, let's see. UK documentary asthma. Preventable. No, not a short film. Fighting for your right to breathe. Breathless. Asthma wiki. In my mind, it's something like to do with a reaction to like dust or something. It's a long-term inflammatory disease of airways of the lungs characterized by variable and recurring symptoms. Peak flow meters. Oh, that's what we use. Peak flow meters and peak expiratory flow rate. Actually, haven't I talked about this before? We had a lesson, two lessons actually, back in secondary school, where we were basically testing our lung capacities and that sort of thing. One of them was in biology, unsurprisingly, when the teacher brought out. I assume that's what these were. These I don't think these are peak flow meters actually, but there was something different. But I remember them looking like a barometer or something, and it was basically everyone gets like one puff on the barometer looking thing, the breath capacity thing, to see how much air is carried in your lungs, for that sort of thing. And I remember we had to share our results with all classes, like who got the highest and who got the lowest, and then let's talk about causes and reasons why. And I remember my friend, she got the highest, and just, I don't know why necessarily. She's a very determined individual, I suppose. Maybe she just blew harder. Phrasing. Maybe she just had more determination to carry a large amount of air capacity in the lungs. I don't know. But she was a saxophone player. Is she still a saxophone player? I don't actually know, to be perfectly honest, but she was, at least at the time, so we were just like, that's probably why. Which is astonishing she won, because I'm pretty sure we had, like, a competitive swimmer in our class. So and I would assume that athletes in general have higher, like, breath capacity or something than those who are not as athletic, but I don't really know. And I remember the person who had the lowest lung capacity in our class, and then I think I don't remember if he had asthma or if it was like I remember him speaking about sometimes he has difficulty breathing. I don't know why I remember this, and I don't know why I told you either. I just remember this lesson as clear as day, because we were just like, whoa, friend, your lung capacity was like 5. I don't remember what units it was in, but I remember it starting with 5. It was like 5,800 or something, convert to whatever units sounds reasonable. And she was like the only one who had like the 5 at the start. What was mine? I think mine was like 4 something. I don't know. If I honestly record all that well. But anyway, the follow-up is like a month later or something in physics class. We were learning about manometers. Is that what it's called? Manometer. It's the U-shape, manometer, which is a thing for detecting air pressure. And it was a thing where you definitely could not do this now. But bear in mind this was pre-COVID days or pre any sort of like large infectious disease days, where it was a U-shaped manometer, and basically we'd all take turns going up to the manometer and like getting one end of a tube and blowing into it to see how much air pressure we could generate in our lungs. And looking back on it, definitely very unhygienic, because the only thing she do is like after you blow in it, she just wipes it down with the same paper towel, mind you. The next person goes, but of course, you know, we're like teens. I guess we don't really care all that much. But yeah, and I remember this because I remember, you know, this is the same science class as everyone was like hyping up my friend. We were like, wow, she's gonna do like super well. So we were like saving her for last, and I don't know. I mean, I don't even know if she believed it necessarily herself, to be honest, because and you know how teens and kids are, you know, hype things up for way out of proportion for no apparent reason. But I remember when it came my turn, you know, I don't even know if I did anything special or whatever. Maybe I had like a better seal with the tube, or maybe I just had more determination or something, or maybe I had the correct breathing technique. But I breathed, and I remember like basically what a manometer is. It's like this U-shaped tube with like a fluid inside. I don't remember what the fluid is. I think we just used water, but I think it's meant to be like mercury or something. But basically, because because it's a U-shaped tube, it starts off equal if they have equal air pressure on either side. But then if you blow on one side, there'll be like a displacement of a liquid, and then from the difference in the heights between the liquids, and if you know the density, or I suppose, of the actual liquid itself, you can calculate the pressure which is being exerted on one side compared to the atmospheric pressure on the other side, because the other side is just an open tube. So I remember I breathed into it, and I just like smashed everyone's records. Like the level of the tube on the other side just went way up, and everyone went, "Whoa!" Anyway, you might go to the end of that. Hey, did your friend beat you? I suppose with her air pressure. And the answer is no. I don't really know what the moral of the story is. I don't think there is a moral. I just think it was a random anecdote I wanted to tell you. It just comes to mind, and as one of the random memories which my brain has decided to lock onto. So if you ever wonder, me, dear darling, apparently have very good air pressure at breathing out, and my friend has much better air lung capacity. How does this work? Got no clue. I wonder if you repeated the experiments now, how would it be? Because I'm immune. I seem I'm much more. I was going to say sedentary. That's how you say that word, right? Inactive. Sedentary.
Sedentary.
Yeah. I'm much more sedentary now than I was, I suppose, as a teenager or a child. So I don't know if necessarily my lung capacity, my lung air pressure, nearly has the amount of strength that I used to. The answer is probably no. But wouldn't it be funny if it did? Would it be funny? I guess it wouldn't really be that funny, to be honest. It'd still be quite inconsequential, if anything. But I was actually, before I closed that Wikipedia article, when I was reading a thing about asthma, where it was just like complications, GERD, which is actually something I'm suspected of having, not necessarily officially diagnosed, but I have like these stomach acid issues, which is why it's the ongoing theory of why I have a chronic cough, but so be it. Yeah, I don't know where I was going with this, to be honest. Excuse me. I just remember those are a random science experiment. No, it's not science experiment. Science lessons I remember. There's actually a lot of science lessons I tend to remember. Unsurprisingly, the ones I tend to remember best are where something significant happened for me personally in them. One of I remember is we did things about human mind. But by the way, like the human mind and brain, like psychology-esque ones, I always find the most interesting of the science lessons. That should be covered more. We should do more like topics on that. But one of them we did was about memory. I think I told the story so many times, but it's basically the thing was like, our teacher was like, okay, I'm going to tell you a story. I want you to memorize as much of the story as possible. And she tells us a story, and then at the end of it, she's like, all right, write down as many words that you remember from a story as possible. And I wrote out essentially the full story. I think it was like 50 key words, and I got 37. Well, the average in the class was something around 5 to 7. So that was pretty insane. I also remember distinctly from that one is that she said at one point the squirrel swung from a branch hanging off a bough of a tree, and at the time I didn't know what a bough of a tree was. I thought it was like a bow, and I was like, I don't understand what, like, because at the time I didn't realize it, but I was visualizing the story in my head and then just replaying the story when I was writing down the words. I was like, I don't know what a bow. Like, I think it was her accent as well. It sounded like she said like a bow of a tree, and I was like, I don't know what a bow of a tree is. So I just remember I wrote down bow, and I didn't give myself a point for that entire excerpt, I suppose, of a story. Missed out on quite a few things there. I still even remember the general rough sort of thing of the story. It was like a weekend. It was like a morning, and there was like a train, of old train tracks, and a squirrel ran onto the tracks to pick up an acorn, then ran off it just as a train came, and then it got like started, and it was running down like a hill, like with leaves or something, and it jumped and it grabbed onto a branch hanging from a bough of a tree, and then like swung in, and then like tucked itself away in its like nest in the tree or something like that. That's what the story was. And again, it's just one of those things where it's like, why do I remember this? And I've got no idea. Why do I have these random other bookmarks? Vein obscuous. How important is IQ? Is in my... This must be something I accidentally bookmarked. I'm gonna just remove this bookmark. Delete folder. I don't know why I had other bookmarks. I don't even know how they appeared on my Firefox. That sticks in my mind. And there was also a thing about, like, she showed us just like a load of numbers, and then she told us to memorize them. Another thing where she gave us like a list of words. I remember this one. It was like she gave a list of words relating to objects around the house. It was like door, ceiling, walls, bed, sofa, things like this or whatever. And she asked us to write down as many words as we remember. And then it was like, haha, how many of you wrote the word window down? And then, like, most people put up their hands. Gotta say, I didn't. Unsurprisingly, because she only gave out 10 words. I probably just memorized all the 10 words. She was like, who put down window? And it was like a thing with associative memory that, like, your brain takes shortcuts when trying to remember these sort of things, and just remembered it as these are all common words relating to the house. So everyone put down window because it was like door and all these other things to set it up. And there was another one where she just showed us like a load of numbers, and then she got us to memorize as many as possible or something. The same sort of thing. And it was a thing where it's like words are easier to memorize than just numbers, I think. Which is definitely very true. Because words, you can have associations with meanings and definitions to them, but numbers by themselves are difficult. Which, if you don't know, actually the way to memorize numbers apparently is you basically convert each digit to a syllable or like a letter or something, and then you make up a word which goes with it. That's a memorization system. I read this book, which is very interesting. It was called Moonwalking with Einstein, which went into the concepts of like memory palaces and that sort of thing, and like the international memorization championships, etc., etc. So that's how you're meant to memorize like sequences or numbers. You just make it into words, and when you basically, if you want to memorize anything, memorize it as a concept or a visual image, you know, and make it. It was the three things you had to do. You had to make it funny. You had to make it, let's say, adult, or you had to make it like weird. It was something like those are the three things to make it much easier to remember in your mind. Yeah. I mean, different things work for different people, shall we say. But yeah, I don't know where I was going with this. What was I even talking about? Manometer? Lung pressure? Breath pressure? What's the actual term for this? Let's look this up. Breath pressure. Breathing. Diaphragm, thoracic muscle. Maximum exhalation pressures. Wait. Lung capacity. Total lung capacity. Lung volumes. I guess that's probably what I'm going to title this episode. Is in litres. Total lung capacity of 6. I don't know what units we use, to be honest. I feel like I remember my friend getting like 5 point something and me getting 4 point something. I don't know. I don't know. How strong your lungs? That's a question of this episode, I suppose. I don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway, I'm going to go around this episode off about now. So, excuse me, tree. If you have been watching, thank you very much. It's been Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've been Dear Darling. Likes, comments, subscription, shares greatly appreciated. Socials, Discord down below. Hope to see each other again. But for now, it's our farewell. So until next time, bye bye for now. I should have done that all in one breath to keep on feeling with the episode, hey?